All right, welcome everybody to the Fire Chat podcast. I'm your host, Rich Rice, and today I have two guests on the show. It's my very first time with two people, Mr. Evan Brown and Jim Keller. Welcome to the show, guys.
Awesome. Two are better than one.
I know. I've been trying to do this for a while, and I'm really excited to do this. We got to figure out how to get these angles right, but we'll figure it out.
All the angles, etc. Yeah,
exactly.
So how you guys feeling?
Good.
I'm very good. I'm very good. You guys have been so patient with me today. Thanks a lot. It's the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club is so patient. It's very good.
What is it? Let's talk about it. I mean, with real estate and with doing these kind of things, sometimes fires come up. So was it something real estate related this morning?
Yeah, we own a property in Eureka, California. I have not been to it. I've seen pictures. We purchased it for a great price. There was an ongoing property management firm that was managing the tenants, and funny, they were collecting rent, and there was a surplus of rent. It's kind of like a new thing. I've never seen anything like this before. But the tenants were no longer going to stay, so we got them out. We had to pay them $1,000 to leave, and now we're rehabbing the house. And so we were doing a walk on. What do they call it? FaceTime or Fast Time or whatever the heck it is. I'm so challenged.
I think it's FaceTime.
Yeah. So we walked the house with the property manager and the owner of the company, and I thought it was going to be about $25,000. So it seems crazy to me. $25,000 in 2023 is paint, carpet, light carpentry work, and maybe a light or two, but we're not really. That's about it. It's pretty remarkably. It's kind of scary. So anyway, my call ran late, and you guys have been so patient with me. Thank you very much.
No worries. We're glad you're here now. So, Jim, real quick, give us like a 30-second intro on your background.
So I have been in the real estate, finance, construction industry pretty much most of my life. About 15 years ago, I finally put it together that the owners were the people that actually made the money. So I stopped being a real estate agent. I stopped being a lender. I stopped being a contractor, and I started owning property. And it's not been an easy ride, but here I am, 15, 16 years later, and things seem to be going pretty well. And that's really what brings me to fixing and flipping and holding on to a few properties.
And paying $25,000 for paint.
Holy Moses.
I got you. We just paid $35 just for the paint. So I feel
just the exterior paint,
just
right?
Just
the outside. Yeah.
So Mr. Brown, Evan Brown, how about you? Give us a little bit of your background here.
Yeah, well, I've been in since 2009. Deliberately, I say that because I was an accidental landlord from a few years before that. But started wanted to be a buy and hold guy. Started buying rentals, quickly ran out of money, and had to come up with, had to learn how to raise money and create partnerships, and did that, and did a couple more deals and buy and holds, and ran out of money again, and said, all right, something's wrong with this. So I kept working through that, and eventually started, wholesaling and flipping for cash, and then with the cash to kind of live on, and then started doing that for a while. Then went back to buying and holding. So,
awesome.
Because as I did that, I have a job. I was a production manager for a printing company, so I had a W-2. Didn't make a lot of money, and so literally. As soon as this was something that I learned, and I tell people now is even if you have $50,000 or $100,000 to start, you buy a couple, 1, 2, 3 properties, you're out of money again. You got to learn how to raise money, raise capital, and deal with those type of partnerships.
Oh, no doubt.
So, you're just a step ahead of someone without the money, but you end up in the same place.
It's funny. That's a great lesson for really anyone trying to get into this business. Is that it's to me? I mean, I hate saying words like it's so simple, but what the work I've done with like a self-directed IRA in the last 7-8 months has really opened my eyes to how important the tribe, having a group of good people that you can count on. That if you've only got $8,000 to give somebody, well, if you're in the middle of a project and you need $8,000 to finish it, it's all the money in the world. And so maybe you'll give some equity away. Maybe it's just maybe it's just interest, or maybe you get a little bit of equity for the small amount of money. But it all adds up. And at the end of the year, if you've done 8 or 9 deals and you've maybe doubled that money 2 or 3 times, a $7,500 deposit into a self-directed IRA, into like a Roth, becomes pretty powerful within just a year or two. But anyway,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the podcast is obviously financial independence through real estate. Evan, I'll start with you. Was financial independence on your radar why you got started, or did you just love real estate? Like how'd you get down that path?
Well, I had come across Robert Kiyosaki 20 years before, or 15 years before, something like that. And but you don't know what you don't know, right? But I like the idea of cash flow and passive income. I had done, network marketing and stuff like that. So and my family, the history of my family was like in the 70s, they had a real estate company. A lot of the family members got together, my grandparents and mom and dad and cousins all put money, and they did a lot of the strip malls in Orange County back in the 70s, mid 70s. They all got company cars. They all started, they were all developing these strip malls that proliferated. And of course, and then the late 70s, 1980, 81, 17% interest rates. And they were pretty much done, bankrupt. Wow. And luckily, my parents had pulled their money out right before to buy a house. And they were the only ones not destitute in the family.
Wow.
It really, then my grandfather started over, and then he passed away shortly thereafter. So that was something that I had as a child watching. And I saw my grandfather and uncle saying, this is a good thing, real estate, it's very powerful, especially this cash flow. But I just picked up a little bit of it from some of the conversations over the period of time. And so later reading books and going to Tom Vu seminars, I had a father-in-law took me to Tom Vu, then Carlton Sheet late night TV on the No Money Down stuff. I've used those strategies, but I still didn't know. I learned them then, but I didn't utilize them because I kind of call it percolated for 20 years until 2009, and 7 and 8, and then the crash in 2009. The opportunity came, and then I was ready, and I had a little bit of cash to start. And that's kind of went. So I always liked the cash flow aspect, but you think a little, and you realize now how it is. So I can imagine in 5 years, what we think we know now, it'll be how laughable.
It'll be amazing.
It'll be like, look what we learn now. Yeah. So anyway.
So when you started, when you started talking about or showing interest in real estate, or maybe mention it, did you talk to any of those family members or were you like kind of doing it under the radar because they would,
No, the key people that did it were, they sadly had all passed. However, I did, my one grandmother who was around for that whole ride up and down was still alive. And so I talked to her a little bit about it, and she was just supportive in general.
Good. Really?
But I had one uncle years before, though, like I said, that was talking to me as a teenager, and he liked to drink, but he was brilliant when he wasn't drinking.
Sounds like a good guy.
Really was. But he really...
He probably thought he was brilliant when he was drinking.
Yeah, he did. But he really was about a lot of this real estate stuff, and a lot of people didn't give him the credit because, that's Kurt, he's drinking. But he taught me, like, for example, they had a corporate attorney that was whatever it was, $100 to a couple $100 an hour. He could take him to lunch and just buy him a nice expensive lunch for 2 or 3 hours, and it was cheaper than to go sit in his office and pay him for the low. And so he would do that. And then it was like, well, then you're wasting time at lunch. He goes, I'm getting free legal advice. You're buying it, at lunch. So it was I'm sure he abused that privilege. But he got a lot of info out of it, and I still remember that.
Yeah, I like that way of. I was at South Coast Plaza yesterday for an obscenely expensive lunch that somebody else was paying for. So I mean, it's a good it's a good perk of the career of the job.
Right,
lots of tax write-offs.
There you go.
Well, you get something out of it,
but you got to make the money to pay it. So it's all relevant.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
true. Yeah, she was the only one around after that. But otherwise, I had one person at the company that we worked at the time that your mom and I worked at that was actually supportive, but of what we were doing. Like, yeah, you should do that, and it was a surprise. And the people, like the my employer, the one that hired me, was an entrepreneur, and I loved the guy. He owned the building, learned a lot about marketing and advertising and customer service, et cetera. But he wasn't so positive. It was weird. The guy was very successful. Again, love him to death.
He needed you.
He just saw you as he saw you as a pressman, not
he did not. Yeah, he just was.
He was. I'm sure he was supportive of you as an employee, but then
he was begrudgingly about it. I just always noticed he was like, yeah, okay, all right, and yet, his other half was very supportive.
Yeah.
That's
I didn't expect her to do.
That's a hard part of the people that love us, that we're close to. It's sort of like a minefield. It's like when I overshare, when I give too much information, what do they say? Jordan Peterson says in one of his 12 rules for life is be careful who you share good news with.
No.
And I've definitely
and
lived.
How soon you do it?
I've lived it. Yeah, I've lived that, and it's sort of it's a little lonely. For me, at least, I'm a real social guy, and maybe I look for the love of others more than I should. But it's still it's difficult sometimes because people they think they're helping you, but they're typically it's just more negativity.
Don't get your hopes up.
Oh yeah,
oh my God,
exactly.
you got
I
such
just want
a
to
good
make sure
thing.
that you know,
Exactly.
like that.
No.
That's very true. Or like you could. I don't know if this is one of Jordan Peterson's rules, but I found in my experience that if you told people too early, it kind of robbed you of your like excitement. Like if let's say, you were trying to quit smoking. Okay. And you told somebody like, it's been 3 days, and as soon as you say that, it's like, it almost resets your brain. Like, oh, it's been 3 days. You can have a cigarette, kind of thing. So it's like, you really want to go quite a while. Because people do like they'll be like, oh yeah, you can do that. Yeah. It's like a mind.
There's a lot of
I've sort of identified that behavior in me is proof that you got to kind of really listen to what I'm saying. It's not that I screw up everything I touch. It's just that everything I touch seems to get screwed up. So so I've been learning. I'm 59 years old now, so I'm mature. In this time I've learned that if I just accept things as they come to me and I make them, I'm very good at making these decisions, or I'm very good at living with my decisions, I guess I should say it that way. And when they go bad, I correct the path. When they go right, I know how to capitalize on that and put my foot down harder on the gas, or maybe it's the brake. I don't know, but instead of thinking, oh look, I've quit smoking for 3 days, and then all the pressure of that kind of kills me. It's easier to be quiet. It's easier to make it become a habit. It's easier, for me to all of a sudden have them come to me and go, hey, when did you quit smoking? Which I don't smoke, but I mean that's sort of the idea, and I see that more as like me being able to master a certain topic or a certain subject, and it's scary when I start talking about mastery, but that's really what I think. I know that's what I'm striving for. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's excel quietly, or like you can grow quietly, and that'll speak volumes.
The explosions in the forest aren't as loud and treacherous if I haven't told anyone that I'm...
And that's why a lot of people, when they get started in real estate wholesaling, flipping, whichever, there's a large part of them don't want to tell a lot of their friends or family. When we say those can be some great leads, they want to wait till they're successful and then go talk to them. And then go, hey, I'm doing this. So then ask money, but raise money or do anything. They literally... because they're too worried about what other people think. Stop worrying about what other people think.
Absolutely.
The sooner you get that part out, stop worrying about what someone else thinks. But then you're also talking now about community, also about surrounding yourself with the right like-minded mindset. So if you're around people that are just hanging out, drinking all day long, and that's all they do day after day, it's like, well, who's working to pay the bills? Who's doing what? Who's trying to better their lives?
Well, it's funny because I've heard your story before. during our Inland Empire real estate investment class that, or the fire fast that we do together. So I've heard your story before, and listening to it just now, I see that like we basically come from a very similar background in the sense that my dad was a contractor and found himself in the middle of a bunch of real estate agents. And this is in the mid 70s when homes in Anaheim and Garden Grove in Orange County, California. Okay. These are homes. I think the median price is around 900,000 right now. But back then you could buy a 3-2, 1,450 square feet with a detached garage for $75,000. And so that's what he would do is the people would come into their office, into the real estate office. The real estate agent would essentially take the deal subject to, and then he would go into the back room where all of the workers were, my dad being one of them, and they would literally have an auction for the property. And so, if I had that property, the two of you'd be like, hey, here, I'll give you $500. Oh, I'll give you $1,000. I'll give you $2,000. And he would win the auction. He always had a big wad of cash with him. It was the 70s. You know how it goes. I always had a big wad of cash, and he'd buy one of these houses. So he got up to, it was like 20 houses in Orange County that he was into for like $80,000. But in the end, 1979 and 20% interest rates happened. And he ended up losing. He ended up losing it all, and it was very transforming for me. I'm very concerned about all of this type of stuff, and the market is littered with people that have done that. Look, we just saw Tony Alvarez at I Survived Real Estate, and his story is amazing. How he pulled just under $20 million out of the market back in 05 and 06 because he timed the market properly. But it's nice hearing stories like that and seeing it done properly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's what we all hope we can do.
There you go.
As do it properly and hopefully time things correctly.
Time it right.
Always work out, but but we keep going. So, Jim, you were just talking, but what about like financial independence for you? Is that something that is important? Like, do you want to be able to just walk away, or you like working and you just want to flip forever? Like what? What's it look like for you?
Well, I mean, as I get older, as my wife and I kind of sail off into the sunset, we have one child that's still at home. The other two are married with husbands. My work is a big part of me. It's what I like doing. I wouldn't call it my identity. When that happens, I get a little crazy, and but I enjoy doing the work. I found a way to do the type of work I enjoy doing, and be able to set up a tax structure that helps me optimize what it is I'm making. I'm going to continue to kind of work in that field. I like buying and fixing. I like selling. In the last few months we've gotten involved in just I think nine projects like that. Most of them will end up selling. Most of them will end up parlaying into other deals. And I think I'm kind of storing up my cash right now. Maybe one day I'll get into something a little bit more long term. I don't know exactly how that looks, but financial independence for me, I would consider myself financially independent at this time. We sold off most of what we own a couple of years ago. Some months I bleed money out of my bank account, and other months I replenish that back and a lot more. It's been a net positive for us, and it's nice just looking at the world a little differently. I'm not flipping for income like I heard you say a minute ago. I've stopped doing that for the most part, and now it's just looking at. I don't know. I don't think it's multifamily. I don't think it's commercial. I don't think it's those type of things. It's more finding a partner, someone I can structure a tax deferred or a tax exempt transaction for myself, and where that takes me is, I don't want to say anyone's guess. We've got it set up now, but in the future we'll see where that goes.
Nice, right on. Evan, is that like for you, is it like I know you love doing real estate. I love you doing deals. It's been a rough year with some rough deals. Is it for you? Is it like, do you want to continue working? Do you want to sail off into the sunset? Like, do you want to come back?
Well,
maybe like, what does it look like for you?
Well, for us, we have a small portfolio of rentals and in notes that you're aware of. Mm-hmm. And so that if we were, a little more careful, because right now we have, business expenses and operations and various flips, still doing even finishing. So we have a bigger operation that we flip and put money into. And then we also have our buy and holds that is like the more passive income that we do have. So that we have that, we could, if we got selective and shut down certain sections of it and go retire in the sunset, so to speak, we could do it. We've seen it. We have it set. It could be done. We're just not there. I just don't want to be as busy in that sense. And so I definitely want to, I think of it as like maybe the next couple of years will play a little bit more and do partner up more, where I'm working with a newer investor, someone that's really still building their empire, so to speak. And we do a deal, and they take a lot of the brunt of the day-to-day stuff of the actual flip. And we kind of more coach them and work with them, and maybe we're money partner on the deal, and really work with some new people. I love working with newbies. Their excitement can be infectious, and I really love that. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of things that I see doing that, but I don't mind, like I said, slowing down a little bit. I did a check, I think about a year ago. I think we had, I forget if it was 14 or 15 different projects going, where there might be several were flips, 3, 4, or 5 were flips, either beginning, starting, or ending. And then we had several rentals that we bought that were rehabbing to rent them out. There were 3, 4, or 5 of those, and we had like 3 or 4 deals, mobile home deals, and then where all the wholesale deals we're working on. And so right now it's like half that, and I like it. It's a lot.
Yeah. I was breathing hard just hearing all of that. That sounds like
I don't ever want to do. I'm done with that. Where I'm 55, my wife's about the same age.
So did you always dream of being that guy, or did it just evolve into that guy?
No, I didn't have a clue on that. I just wanted. For me, it was have enough passive income coming in, cover your bills. And that was something that if I had enough, I never had really identified early on what that was. Just, more money than your expenses? Okay. But Mick Blackwell, who was a mentor of mine that we met, had heard about through Nick Manfredi and some of the other local RIAs, et cetera, that people in the industry. But I really got to know him from the club, actually. One of the events, I had heard that he had a luncheon that he did. We still do, but he's passed away. And he basically was like, "What is your number? How much do you need to pay your bills?" And I told him the number, and he laughed, made a snide remark, because he was like, "What are you, some type?" Because he thought it was like an income up here, and I was like, "No, because I was thinking future, and if I could spend what I wanted," but he goes, "The number's a lot smaller than you think it is. Go write it down what your actual bills are." And once I wrote it down, it was a third of what I
thought it was going to be.
And then I realized we were kind of close to that. And then something Aaron Mazzrillo said when he was being interviewed at the club here. And I went, I can aim for that. I'm not that far ahead, and that kind of when it really solidified. And that was like 6 years ago.
Yep. And you're not the only one where, I just asked the whole room at the Fire Focus event last week, what people's numbers were, and they kind of said the same thing. There was a few people in the audience that were like 10,000. Yeah. 10,000 a month. So all your bills are paid. You still want 10,000 a month to play with, and it's like, wow, you you could have a couple Lambos for that. Like it's, that's a lot more money than I think people think,
it's not, doesn't take as much as you think. And that when you realize how much closer it is, you actually can go, that's more doable.
Exactly.
That's why, some of us, have gone and looked at the nice, let's buy a whatever dream toy you want. Used a Lamborghini or whatever, but or a motor coach. And you see this big number. I just wanted a nice little Class C RV. I didn't mind late model. I was okay with that. You know what I mean? I didn't need this.
I think most people, when they sit down and say like, wait, I could get to this. I don't have to work anymore, at least like a 9 to 5. You still got to work for all this. It doesn't just come,
Right.
But, maybe I'd be a Corvette sounds great. Like I don't need the Lambo, it's like your perception changes in what you actually want or need, to fulfill that thrill or whatever.
So last night I was at South Coast Plaza walking through Bloomingdale's and I saw a $37,000 bed.
Ooh.
So I guess as we're talking about the Lambos or we're talking about the whatever it is, there's always a new number for somebody. There's always like something new, and I think that if we're just talking about consumption, I don't think that's a winner for me. It's not a winner because there's no limit. I don't know if any of you. I grew up around boats, and there's a saying. Everyone has a bigger boat, okay? So I'm trying to make my life simple. I'm trying to relieve my stress. I'm trying to get along with my family. I'm trying to be a better grandfather. I'm trying to be just a better guy. And me chasing after this $36,000 bed, which I'm not interested in, but it's still, I was sitting there thinking to myself, how do you get to this place? So what, I guess I make $5 million a year. And I do that and I got to wake up in the morning and go to my job and, whatever it is I'm doing. And I say to myself, I'm so important. I need a $36,000 bed. I don't understand it. So I guess I'm kind of criticizing that guy who's buying the bed. But
I think the lottery winners are buying that bed. The guy wins $2 billion, and that's why they'll go through the money because they're going to go buy stuff like that.
Well, he would need 4 of them because it's a 4-bedroom house. You know what I'm saying? No, it's the consumption part of the equation is what is really kind of where I'm going is for the first time in my life, I remember I used to fantasize about making $100,000, and then I remember I heard on Rush Limbaugh on the radio one day. It said they were like, I remember when $275,000 a year was a lot of money, and I don't want to get caught up on a figure, but the reality is that if I focus on the money, I tend to get off track because I make decisions based around money. And so I've learned for me, it's transaction based, and because I enjoy the transaction and I understand that if I'm actually talking to escrow about opening a deal, that's sort of like in my mind, I'm making a deposit. Maybe it's emotional deposit I'm making in the deal. But if I start focusing on, I'm going to make $66,000 on this transaction, it almost never happens that way. My wife is always disappointed. And I only made $36,000, and it's hard for me to get involved in that and live with the disappointment, to be honest with you, because I feel like a failure.
A win's a win.
I only made $36,000, and boy, I only made $6,000. And one of my late partner, Ron Hawk, great guy, okay, but he had a really great relationship with money, and he saw it as dirty. He saw it as like something that it wasn't something to like hold on to and embrace yourself with. He didn't wear Rolex watches. He didn't have $36,000 beds. He kind of went the other direction on this. But he would always tell me, as long as we're in the black at the end of the project, and that means $1.
Yep.
Okay. He goes, I get my money back. You get your management fee. We live another day. We go on and do another deal. Yep. And, you got to have 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 deals going, to live like that. But I enjoyed it a lot. I learned how to find good deals and how to eliminate the bad ones out of that equation. And it helps me not to get in this consumption sort of treadmill. That's really what I'm trying to talk about.
You know what? I have some friends that make really good money, 6-figure a year at their jobs. They're either in sales or just a high they were in a particular trade. But one of them, for example, makes about $500,000 a year, but he spends it. Mm-hmm. He spends it, and love him to death. And he writes a big check for a boat or this or et cetera. And in the last 5-6 years,
$37,000 bed.
Yeah, no, but the last 5 or 6 years though, because when when we started really gearing this up and started doing a lot better, and we're buying rentals again. I was talking to him, and he went from no other properties, just this house he lived in, to he has like 4 now or 5 that are rentals that are good properties, or a family member lives in, or he just paid off a second home that he has that he's still working on. But the idea is as I was like, look, if you keep putting into these type of things versus like an asset, it's the wrong place to go. And I didn't have to say it so much as just say what I was doing, because he always made many times what I made, yet we had money at the end of the month, and he didn't.
He bought depreciating assets, and you bought appreciating assets.
So he got it. He got it, and now I ask questions a little bit. And he's like a brother to me, and so I'm very proud of him. And he just works his ass off. And so today he's in a much better position. And so I just know, though, that there's a lot of people out there that they keep up with the Joneses, or I want.
Yeah.
When it doesn't take as much money as, like you said, a lot of people say 10,000 or 20,000, but you can do a lot for a lot less if you pay off everything.
And a lot of it, what you're talking about, is reducing expenses, and that gets you so much closer to that goal than I think people realize. Because I'm on Reddit and all these other social media sites or whatever, and people are always making jokes and making cracks about just stop eating, just pull up your bootstraps, or like just stop eating your avocado toast, or whatever. And they've kind of turned into like a reverse meme where like the people that, are kind of the more like not hopeful, or like, just kind of cynical,
right?
Have like turned it into like just stop eating avocado toast. And it's like, we're not talking about specifically the avocado toast. Like it's an example of something that, like, if you really want to do this and you really want to be financially independent, you want to be disciplined, like, you can reduce your expenses somehow. There's always something,
right?
Like, and I get it. There's people that are, living on the edge, and every single penny counts.
I live that way.
I've been there, like it's
many years.
But there's also, I could tell you during that time, there was definitely things that like I still spend money on that I shouldn't have. I smoked back then, for example. Like, I was barely affording rent, but I could afford
$20 a day for cigarettes.
And, and just, I wasn't eating avocado toast. I don't know if that was a thing back then, but, I was still like, I would go to work and, maybe I'd get a breakfast sandwich for $4, in the morning instead of cooking. Like there's just a lot
of that drink at 7-Eleven and the little snack on the way to work every morning, like a buddy of mine would do. And then money was tight, but there was like $6 every day.
Yep.
6 times 25 days.
Yeah, exactly. So it can really, it's not just making more money is I guess what we're talking about. It helps,
but what I don't like about that equation, what is the treadmill aspect of it. And all of a sudden you find yourself no different than you were, last year at this time.
Just making more money.
Yeah, you're spending more money, and I just
problems.
I mean, my wife hates it because I don't put my nose in the checkbook as often as she thinks that I should. But I always tell her that if I'm concerned about the money, I really do kind of go to heck, involving myself with all of these little details, and I've been able to break myself of the avocado toast now. You're also talking to a guy who was at lunch at Morton's yesterday, okay?
But you weren't paying.
Okay, but exactly. But the point is that breaking yourself of these habits of doing things that and it's really just my view, aren't green. Meaning, if they're making me money, like for instance, I often spend way too much money on the fast tracks, But if I'm in the middle of the day and I'm going to make $1 million this year, and I work 3,000 hours a year, do the math. And if I'm saving 20 minutes and that day I made $1,000, it all adds up over time. And maybe I'm just trying to tell myself I'm important and have to drive in this lane. But there has been times when I've been on the fast track on the 91 freeway 3 times in one day.
Yep.
I paid $20 each
money.
time. It was the best $60 I ever spent, for fast track. So,
or carpooling.
yeah, and I just say finding that discipline is something that over years I've honed, and some days I'm really good at it, and other days I'm really horrible at that discipline. But I think that's the magic, right? That's where, that's a guy like Mick Did he ever show you his statement for his oil and gas investments?
He brought it. I really just I looked at the
Yeah.
the numbers, but I didn't really.
Because by my math, it's about 300 times that $10,000 a month figure is what he was making on his oil and gas.
Mick, though, you walk in with a seriously, even a
he was in another stratosphere.
he was, but he was as much as I love him. He if you walked in with even a semi-nice watch like I did once, and it was only like a $200 watch, it just looked more expensive, and he got all over me, and I was like, "What? I can't spend or any," because he was the extreme.
Yeah,
like,
they're all
don't
people
spend
that it's
it.
like it becomes like a
game?
part of it, like a game to like live, as like
frugally.
the pauper life as much as possible, and it's like I don't know if that's
That's
a hard equilibrium.
But it makes you think about it.
true.
Yeah, it's like
I mean, when you start putting every dollar into the financial calculator and figure out like what each
That's what he
dollar
did.
that you're spending and what those little soldiers could be doing instead.
I guess I'm frivolous
hard,
because I mean, here's the problem. If I become that guy, I just go off the deep end.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what I just tell myself. But, I have several nice watches. Right. It's really my, it's like my one thing that I get to do for myself.
And that's okay.
Or remember earlier in the year when we were working at the club on our How to Get a Deal in 6 Weeks program, I made the statement to everybody that if I can do 10 transactions this year, I'm going to buy myself my not my dream Porsche, just my little transportation. So now I've done the deals. I put the money in the bank, and I got to be honest with you, it's just not that important to me. So I don't
want to write. You're like, I don't want to write the check.
I mean, it's not even really.
I can rent one for the day.
I'm not. Yeah, well, you know what? That's actually what I've been doing. So now we're buying properties up and down the state, and I rented a Maserati. And I mean, it was a little frivolous, but I get to
cheaper than buying it.
Well, exactly, and it's fun, and I don't mind putting premium gas in it for 3 or 4 days, and it's a good time. But I think I have my daughter's Honda CRV that I'm in right now. That's maybe a $2,000 car. My wife goes, maybe you should get new tires on that car before you take it on the freeway. But for me, being humble and being a person that doesn't have all of these demands, and again, I feel foolish telling you about a Maserati and Morton's.
But you rented the Maserati. You didn't go buy a Maserati.
And he didn't pay for lunch. So
and you didn't pay for lunch.
And
I'm
so,
going to that lunch next time, right? Didn't you say that you're inviting us?
Exactly. The sandwiches always taste better when someone else is paying.
Yeah. Well, what some of the things we were talking about. Remember when I started, my attitude was, my wife and I, we had jobs that paid the bills, and at the time we were like treading water, and we were fine, and we had a house, and we had our accident. We were an accidental landlord. Basically, what it was is we had bought a house in 2005, a condo, and moved into that. That was our first house together. It was right before we got married, and then 3 years later, I had started looking around to try to buy a rental. And I was looking at a state, but when the prices dropped, we realized Angela looked around and realized that for what we paid for the condo, we could buy a bigger house just down the street for a lot less. So we went and ended up. Next thing you know, she called me on a Saturday, like, or Sunday, hey, I saw this house, et cetera. I didn't even know we were looking. We had an offer written up, and it was accepted the next morning. Yeah, it was. And then we decided, okay, we'll rent our condo out. Well, our expenses on our condo, let's just say, was $2,000 a month. The market rent in the area was $1,250. So we immediately had like call it $1,000 a month loss. So that was the accidental landlord. We could afford it because for certain reasons we still did it, but the end result was, in the beginning, I didn't think of like flipping for lifestyle or anything. It was just, oh, well, I just buy the rentals. So when I'd go to their local RIA meeting, because this club wasn't there then, I'd go to the RIA meeting that Nick Manfredi had, or go to Coach Fullerton's, and I saw 90% of the people were flip. I was like, well, I have a job. I'll just buy the rentals. And that's when we ran out of money after buying, one, then have to.
The realities.
Yeah. Had, sell put a loan on a motorcycle and buy a property, and then how to get the how to raise capital. And then it was all about, for us in the beginning, was cash flow. And this goes back to when we then started to, we were buying in a war zone and buying and holding triplexes mostly in a war zone area in the high desert. The management it was so management intensive. I mean, it was like gang warfare. It was, and bullet holes, and it was just crazy stuff. And we ended up going to an event, and someone said something that just tweaked my thinking a little bit. And we ended up selling. We were in a position that we could start flipping, because I realized some advantages there. Sold out on our multifamily in the bad areas, and started flipping for lifestyle for a while. Could quit the job, and that worked for a while. And then later with Mick and then Andy, and then smacking me about buying more rentals again, we started buying that, and that went back to the idea of why we originally got into it was the cash flow and work less. And so when I started, I had the job and everything. So that just put it up to where we just really wanted to just live and not have the job. And once we got out of the job, I really didn't know what to do. I spent so many years wanting to get out of my job. I was like scratching my head. Now what? And
you hit on two very important things. Like one was that you were interested in rentals, and you became an excellent landlord. The other one, that you went to RIAs, and it seemed like everybody was flipping. And I'll come back to that in a second, because I talked to Richard Roop, who's this AI guy, a very AI like marketing expert on the other side of the country. And I mentioned FIRE to him. I mentioned financial independence through real estate, and as part of our mission here at the club. And he was like, well, isn't that what all of them, like, isn't financial independence, like, isn't that what every RIA does? And I was like, not in my experience. Like most of the RIAs that I've been to, that goal is out there. But
and some are doing it,
and some are, but a lot of it is so many flippers and wholesalers, and it's like everything's geared towards that, and it's like the financial independence part kind of doesn't,
right.
And maybe that's everyone assumes, but it's like it's not.
Flippers and wholesalers are not investors. We're really those, even though we do it, we're not investing. It's just a good paying job. It can be.
I know for me, I didn't really understand what financial independence was. I always worked. I worked. There was many years I made nothing. I mean, under $30,000. There was years that I just like eked by and barely made it. And financial independence always sounded good. It's always what people like Tom Vu or Dave Del Dotto. I would dream about these kind of things, but I never really saw it happening for me. And I was always deal centered, like dealed. I want to do deals, and I still am to that extent. But the financial independence part of this is something that not a lot of people teach, and coming to the Inland Empire Club and seeing people that have somehow converted. Maybe you've bought and sold a couple houses and you've got $400,000 or $500,000. And I think there's a lot of people at the club I kind of see like that. Maybe they've done 3 or 4 or 5 deals, and knowing how to take that equity and put it into a transaction that is not that's taxed preferably, that enables you to spin off income, and maybe it allows you to store it in an account and not have to take it as income. All of these kind of things are something that I know I've spent a lot of time the last like 2 or 3 years trying to understand better. But I think that's what a club like the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club can do for really everybody. And even if you're not here in Southern California, if you're listening to this and you're in New York City or in South Carolina and you're trying to figure out what to do, there is a mixture of all of these things we're talking about that work really well. And It starts with this education that you're talking about. It starts with maybe not oversharing to your family members and getting oh no, you don't want to do this. There's so many places it starts at, and I love being able to offer that to people here at the club. A lot of them are maybe newer and don't have a big nest egg, but you know what?
Yeah.
In 2 or 3 years of doing 1 or 2 or 3 transactions, I think it's pretty easy to save a couple $100,000 doing that.
And if you set out, so I was the opposite. Like I got into this for financial independence. Real estate sounded cool to me. I always liked houses.
Young guys, man.
Real estate sounded cool to me.
Yeah.
I just didn't like what I was doing. He wanted to start flipping and doing wholesaling and
like raise the bar a little bit
and doing it a little bit more. So our kind of paths collided there as far as like where we went with that. But I never saw myself really doing real estate or being a flipper. I had that kind of vision or that kind of goal in mind. So everything starting from zero for me was just having that. I knew what the number was, it was, and everything we did from there was to try and get to that goal, or I did from there was to get to that goal. We set the company up and how I was paid a certain way because I wanted cheap bank financing at the time, which is gone now, but, and that's, I guess, why I with the club that I focus so much on the financial independence part, because I feel like if it's very easy to just come in and start flipping and then you've built this beast and you're just working 10 times harder than you even were at the W-2 and you just have so much going on that it's like, are you really, if you stopped flipping, are you going to be okay? Kind of thing. And that's kind of where we want to get people. So,
yep. And luckily, there are a lot of members that might have a career or a job, but they own 4, 5, 6, 8 rentals, and so what's nice is seeing some of them come in, and then they're like, well, they just thought of as extra income, and then seeing them look into this. Well, no, if I just tweak this and tweak this, I could stop. But maybe they love what they do, and I can think of several people like that. And it's nice seeing the others that get in and start doing things that I'm not doing, like doing a lot of stuff out of state. And they leave, as you know, nursing, for example, one of our friends, and now has a very successful, short-term rental business. So it's exciting watching that. But again, is it going closer towards? Do they just create another job for themselves, or are they creating something that is, like you said, something that they could, I don't say retire from, but something that they manage instead of it managing them. Yeah.
Like if you choose, like now that I'm in it, now I love it.
Yeah.
I don't see myself stopping, but I could,
right.
If I wanted to.
Well, there's a certain amount of that though, that just really comes down to what you're able to accept as I'm disposed most of the days. I have something that I'm need to be doing in regards to it's really what I'm doing now is trust deed investment. I really don't see myself as a house flipper. I do trust deed investments for equity is essentially the way I've figured out how to structure this. And then for me, it's the best way to do this. It's how I can deal with the income and not feel like I'm going to be killed in my taxes. So I figured out a way to do what I enjoy doing, but I really need. That's really what I've learned is I need to have something going on in my life, because if I don't have, well, I'll just say it. If I don't have a job, I disintegrate rather quickly, and I start, I start
have a purpose.
Well,
right?
So exactly. Yeah, I start thinking, I really need an airplane. I really need this. I really need this, and there is no end. Like I would be the guy buying the $36,000 bed. I really would be. I know I would be if I made $5 million a year, or whatever that figure is. And me having the job, meaning me having to be up in Hidden Valley Lakes on the 20th of this month, 3 days or whatever days before Thanksgiving. It's a hassle. It's a bummer. but I figured out how to make this work for me, and I actually like it, and I don't want, like, I guess it's my bonus to pick with you, because one time I heard we were talking to a group of people, and we were talking about vacations that we'd been on, and I was like, oh, now we're trying to now I'm trying to pay for this thing or something like that. And you made the statement of like, oh, well, I've got the rentals to pay for it. And it sort of like, it stung me a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But it's really not, because I do see that for you've got this set up exactly the way you want it, and you can justify your life and your relationships with your family and friends that are based around your rentals and the amount of work you have to do to maintain them and manage them and collect the monies and so on and so forth. And I've made a similar decisions to do other things. And I think that's the hardest part when I get in the club, when I start talking to all of, and it's a good lesson when I start comparing myself against the work that other mentors do in the club, or when I start comparing myself to what I hear you saying, or to an extent, really anybody, when I start comparing myself, I sort of deteriorate. What I know I have to do, sometimes can get a little foggy because I'm hearing the input from others. And I like the idea of me spending the time I have coming up with exactly the way this works for me and living with it. Yeah. Now, with that said, we were literally we rented this beautiful Mercedes, AMG Mercedes, and we went 1,800 miles in like 3 days, looking at all these properties in California. It was really fun.
That sounds really nice, actually.
It was really beautiful. But and I remember I kind of like got a little misty, and I'm talking to my wife. My wife's with me during this whole trip, and I say to her, geez, how poor of a guy am I? Because in my retirement, I dreamed that we would be driving around looking at our properties, conducting our business. And I looked at her and I said, why wasn't I in a jet going to Monte Carlo? It's like, I didn't dream big enough. I really didn't dream big enough.
You just gotta be specific.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Exactly. And I just know that being able to think about what it is you're doing, and it doesn't matter if you're looking at me saying, oh, he's just got a job, it's okay. It's okay. I'll live, I'll make it, I'll get through all of that. And if I'm looking at you going, oh man, you've got all these doors and this guy, this problem and that problem, and it's like, I don't have those problems. The two of us somehow traded off, and it's not a, hey, he's doing it wrong, or she's doing it wrong, or, you should have done this or you should have done that. I've just figured out a way that it works well with my life, and as I know you have also.
Yeah. Well, there's this. I always forget who I learned it from. I'm sorry. It's pick your heart, and it's being a landlord's hard.
Yep.
Being a flipper's hard. It's like pick your heart.
Pick your poison.
If getting educated is hard. Being not educated is very hard as well. So
being not educated is even harder.
It's
you think it's easy?
Yeah, if you think it's So and things come differently to different people. So, but it's important to, you've figured it out. You know how to be a successful
this week.
How to be a successful flipper and keep it going at it. And you're that type of personality that can keep that all going. But there's a lot of people that end up stuck in a flipping business that they want out of, and they because they didn't do the homework to begin with, as far as like, why do I actually want it? Do I just want the money? Do I just want the vacations? Do I just want the
why are they doing it?
Like,
goes back to your why.
Do I just not want a job? Well, that job's hard, but having your own job might be harder. So
not being in a warehouse though, on that August afternoon and you're sweating, machinery running. I'll take the freedom of even going from job site to job site. That was like, I didn't care if I did the rest of my life and just did that. That would, no problem. It was such a not having to worry about someone else saying I can go take a vacation or not, or you can't do that, or you need to come in. No, the heck with that. So I was like, just get out of the job one way or the other. And once we were able to do that, that was really important for us. And going back to the financial independence for us is we started, you have Dave Ramsey out there saying, don't ever borrow one thing. And sometimes he's so far out there, it's just, we like can laugh at it. It's like, are you kidding me? But there's a lot of points that we said, again, about people getting into kind of what you said earlier about just buying that $37,000 bed or financing this, et cetera. So we started about a year ago, earlier this year, really started watching what we were putting our money in and where can we tweak and what can we kind of like pruning the bush, so to speak, and just trying to get stronger portfolios and putting things in an area to where you could figure out which ones are the weakest properties and maybe get rid of those, or let's free up some time here and let's do a couple things like. Instead of making for example, a lot of our repairs in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of money with some rentals, so we would just put Band-Aids on the roof. What can we do, on fixing it so it won't leak this year? We did that on some of ours. Well, a couple of years ago, we started just throwing on, all right, it needs a new roof, just do the whole roof. So a lot of our outlays went up, but we were like, we're getting better properties by fixing it properly. We shouldn't have a problem for 20 years now. So we were just kind of doing that, cutting the no-nonsense expenses. Do I really need nine different magazine subscriptions that I'm only really looking at one? Oops, because it kind of happens. So we've been doing a lot of stuff like that and then getting very specific on where our money's going. And so watching that and watching
we shut down some
what
of
we
our
could do,
marketing too.
shut down some marketing at the moment, and at the same time making a leaner life and make it a little easier to live for what's coming. Is I still want to do some deals with some new people. I like to do some deals with some friends, but be a little less busy. And it's something I love to do, but also go out and hang out more and
be more of a general than a lieutenant, where you're out there fighting every day and developing plans. And maybe you are developing plans, but that's really the extent of your involvement. And then you get to watch these people actually execute. What I like is I like seeing when it really hits the fan, when it really goes, like, what do they say? The boxer, Mike Tyson, says, everybody's a boxer until you get hit in the face. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden things start to change. And I can think of many times when I had $200,000 and $300,000 a week payrolls for 9 different construction jobs that are working on at one time, and and you have $61,000 in the bank, and you're like, where are we going to find on Tuesday? Where are we going to find this money in 3 days? And developing the habits and the muscles to create things like to create $200,000 out of midair. It taught me a lot about resilience. It taught me a lot about when do I really want to give up? When do I say no? I can't do that. And I had that life for maybe 7 or 8 years, and I can think of maybe 2 times that we actually had to shut down. And we kind of overkicked the coverage, and we had too much going on. And what's funny about that is it costs a lot of money to stop and then to restart. Those kind of things definitely happen. But learning about yourself, learning about how you handle things under adversity, and I think that's what as mentors we can really give these people. These lieutenants that we meet at the club, they're not ready to to sponsor their own investments. They're not ready to have multiple transactions going out at one time. They're still trying to figure out what it is exactly they're doing, and it's nice to be able to give them a good word or like the call earlier today that I'm on in Eureka. Is really, she's telling me I asked her, I said, can you give me your best case scenario on what you would do at the property? And so the first 15 minutes was her just walking the whole property. And those 2 areas that I wanted to go back on. And I was like, hey, let's just pull, there was a window that looks like there's some leaking and there's some mold on the plaster underneath the door, and the outside of the house there's something going on underneath it. So I said, yeah, just take take the outside off. If we have to pull the window and put a new window in, we can do that. And it was nice. I actually felt good for her too, because I could see I was giving her a clear message, giving her a clear mandate. Like,
You
okay,
didn't have
it's
to fly up.
yeah, it's going to be $36,000. Okay, I just want a scope of work, talking about this, and then I understand these two items are still open, so it's going to cost us more or less. We've got another painter up in Hidden Valley Lake that gave us $7,500 for the interior. The house is really beat up inside, and $6,500 for the exterior. And I thought it was a little steep, but again, I'm dealing with him over the phone, and he's more site management. But so we did the same exact thing, and it feels really good. That's what I like about where we're at in business now, and I think that's what we have to offer the club, is to be able to kind of oversee this from 20,000 feet and say, oh, that's going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. I've got a flip we're doing in Weatherford, Texas right now, and get this, I'm over budget and over time. I mean, can you believe that happened?
Been there before.
Yeah.
Been there. That's like normal, right?
Well, no, that's exactly it. And I was talking to my executive vice president, my wife, yesterday, and I said, "Did you really think?" Now, this is a business associate of mine that I've known forever. And I know he's not dishonest. I know he's doing good work for us. I know he's doing his best. I said, did you really think his first flip was going to be under budget and under time? Of course it wasn't. Let's just go with this.
Learn to be comfortable. Learn how to be comfortable while you're uncomfortable.
Well, no, listen, that right there is actually the reason we're sitting here, because I learned that from a guy, he was my vice president of sales and marketing when I worked in new home sales. Is he taught me every quarter in a corporate environment is all based around bonuses and closings and things like that. And so literally your entire quarter is like the 3 weeks leading up to quarter end is the hardest part of the business. And you had to really work really, really hard in that corporate environment to hit those quarterly sales numbers. And if you weren't comfortable with that pit in your stomach that made you sort of your skin crawl. And what he told me is, he said, once you start to understand that feeling is you depositing money in your bank account. Okay. and for me, it took me a couple, 3 or 4 quarters. That's over a year of work to be able to understand that. But now I know it. And as recently as just 2 months ago, I'm out there working. I have that same uncomfortable feeling, and instead of retreating and pulling back, I use that uncomfortable feeling as more proof that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm involved in something that's stretching me, that I'm involved in something that's going to make me. Well, in the end, I know it's going to make me money because of the experience I have.
That's that. Smells like money, that term, because you walked in a house and it reeks, and some people want to run, and you're like, no, this is where the money's made.
That's that's that rat smell, that rat urine / rat oil smell.
I still don't want to eat it while I'm eating. I don't want to smell that while I'm eating my steak, right? When you're having lunch, but you look right.
Smells like fresh $100 bills.
Sometimes you do, and you're
but you the 35 cat smell, and you walk in, it's like. But you learn hey, we want those houses. Yep. Remember when we were with some
nothing that comes easy is worth having, or whatever.
Right.
Some kind of.
We were with some members earlier in the year, and we're driving around, and we're looking at and say, let's have that house and drive for dollars, right, to market to them. And they're like, that house is, because it was like too bad. It's like there's no such
Everybody
thing.
Wants the lipstick.
Right. Maybe I don't want to flip that burned out, half leaning structure, but I might wholesale it to a friend that's a developer or who'll just
It's why I don't tell my mother-in-law about all the properties we do, because she'd always say, when are you going to do one in, Beverly Hills? Or she wouldn't say Beverly Hills, but she didn't understand the worst parts of Riverside is where I made more money on, the houses that we bought for $160, put 35 in and sold for $340,000, and we did it in a matter of 60 days.
It's not glamorous.
So just like 3-4 weeks ago, I drove out to beautiful Blythe, which that was just for all of you listening in Illinois. That's about 250 miles. It's right on the border of Arizona and California. It's in the middle of the desert. There's a community out there. At one time there was a thriving community. It's a little less than now. But I have a neighbor of mine. He's actually my gate guy. He's a welder. So he goes out. Cameron is his name. Cameron and I go out to Blythe. We've got to get personal attention on this property because I couldn't sell it through one of the local wholesalers.
Right.
So we drive out to the property and we get off the main road and it's a dirt road. So it's like, I knew it was a dirt road, but we pull up. And he audibly gasps and says, "What in the heck are you doing?" Like I can tell he thinks I'm an idiot and have no idea what I'm doing. And
It's your first day.
I've driven to Blythe too to look at property. I get it.
It just was really funny. And frankly, I was towing a trailer with me. I backed the car up. I backed the trailer up. I said, "Listen, just start taking and filling the trailer up." And there was a dog mess all over the house. It smelled horribly. Rats, cats. It was not a good thing. All of the trees,
Yeah,
exactly. All of the trees. The soil's too alkaline, so all of the trees weren't watered properly. So the trees had fallen over like big mulberry trees, and they were dried because it's the desert and fallen over. So there's 7 trees that have to be cleaned up. Well, to make a long story short, as we drove away from the property, I had a check for $2,000. I sold the home to the next door neighbor's father, and my guy Cameron was looking at me like he could not believe that this is what happened. And there's times in my life when I would have been in tears as I pulled up to the property, but I think that showing people how to exercise that muscle, like I knew I had the first thing I had is ownership. Okay, so we own the property, and now it's just figuring out how to get, the happiest day is when I buy the property, the second happiest, or maybe it's the other way around. The second happiest is the day I buy it, and the happiest day is the day I don't own the property anymore, and I can go off and do another deal, or I live another day. But
that is an advantage, though, when we fix and flip a property or wholesale, and you're done. And versus on a rental or the other, you got this.
But even on those rentals now, especially in California, the cheaper you get it, the lower your tax basis is going to be. So if you get it for $90 versus you're out buying a rental that's turnkey for $400,000, tax wise you're going to be a little bit more.
Just in that strategy alone, I think that would be really interesting to say, let's say over the next 10 years you were to acquire, I mean, do you need 10 properties really, to make
depends what your number is.
Again, 10 free and clear.
Let's just say you were going to go and you were going to be 50% encumbered on 10 properties over the next 10 years. That was your goal starting today. Okay. It would be really interesting to see like what are the ramifications of your basis being 25% less, meaning your cash flow is going to be much higher because you're not paying the taxes every year. And I know these numbers can kind of get a little exhausting and it's kind of hard to follow it all, but I would encourage everybody that's listening to do the work. So I go to my accountant for information like this, and he might go, "Oh, it's not a big deal," but I still would ask for the explanation. So I understood the math, because me having I would call it the direction of like the certainty that, I see that I need 10 houses, and maybe I have to buy 30 houses in order to find 10 keepers. Okay, But knowing that if I'm buying them with a basis of X amount is that much better for me, or maybe that's the reason I'm going to keep the 10 that I'm keeping and giving away the 20 that I'm leaving in that scenario I'm talking about. The certainty of knowing the math, of understanding the math, makes me a much more powerful negotiator with the painter, with the drywall guy. If I know I've got a great basis, if I know this is a corner property in 2 miles from the beach, that I'm always going to own this property, I know that it. Having that certainty makes me a stronger owner. It makes me a stronger negotiator. It makes me stronger everything.
Well, one of the things what I look at when I'm like a buy and hold, if I can make $500 a month That's really if I can have a spread like that, and in the houses I'm buying, it might be a mobile home on land, so even might buy it for $100,000 or $120,000, and rent for 18, and my payments 8, but with the expenses, et cetera, then I'm good. I'm going to do that. But that's different than having a $4,000 payment renting for $4,500. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's
so after expenses, you're looking to make $6,000 a year from a rental property, and that's a very easy That's a really easy calculation,
right? Because the idea is
for
if you have
properties he's buying,
for the properties you're buying, right? And then as you said, you mentioned 30. If you work it to where you have a portfolio of 30, what others will say is sell off the 10 worst performing and structure it so you get 20 in better neighborhoods and pay down their debt. I know. I think Aaron Mazzrillo talks about that. He will take a lot of his flipping profits and put it to pay down when he refinances on a property. So every time he refinances, instead of pulling money out, he's really paying it down. So then it cash flows better. And then every time he flips, he just keeps doing that to constantly get that debt ratio.
So his
down.
rate of return ends up just going up and up and up. The more properties he does.
Because he's planning, and because he's buying it right, but he's also planning that he's going to make money from the appreciation more than the original cash flow. He goes, I might negative cash flow of 500 for the first little bit, and then what will happen is he'll constantly, because he has a flipping business or wholesaling business that does that as well. So. But the idea is if you have 10 free and clear properties is good. Bill Cook talks about 20, 25 properties that he's had. But something when we were talking about earlier, we mentioned about having having income or not income or pile of cash, et cetera. Something Vina Jones has said when she's watched the debates between Pete Fortunato and I forget the other gentleman's name.
Bill Cook and all them.
Yeah, well, but basically that because they were talking about like, they deploy their cash, they deploy their money, especially Pete. So he's like that sometimes people forget, or she thinks, Vina mentioned, how easy it is when to create a deal to come up with $50,000 for something of what you need to do. So and I know you have that ability, and I know we have that ability to do it as well. So it goes back to, again, your ability to create a deal or structure a deal or partner on a deal or find a deal. Going to that is a way to where you actually can create wealth or create money to do whatever else you need to do.
Which really,
it was just kind of an earlier point. But
that's really what I was trying to say about having all of those numbers, being in command of them. It doesn't mean, and it goes with being a general. So when you're a lieutenant, you don't necessarily need to know, about long-term, capital gains or real income or all of these things.
Yeah, if you're getting started, you're just getting started. You just need to learn to make money in that deal, and make that a positive experience, even if you're not sure exactly which. You don't need to know every answer of your exit strategy 10 years from now versus now. You just need to understand that deal, and then while you work on your fire number and figure out what your fire number is, what is your goal? Is it to be to own multifamily with 7 other people and having a pie of all this, or you want 20 single family homes?
And a lot of people get stuck down in this analysis paralysis of like trying to get it all figured out. They got to have all their, all the scenarios, all the things,
right,
everything lined up. The LLCs,
don't do that.
The marketing, the drip campaigns. I just talked to a new member. He wants to be a wholesaler. He wants to get his drip campaigns, his like auto chat bot, all of his marketing and stuff before he even goes. And he's only got 3 months to like really like nail a deal down. And I was like, you don't have to worry about all that. But so we're doing this. We did this class, on helping people out like that earlier in the year. We called it Fire Fast. It was a Fire Fast boot camp. You guys were obviously the pillars of that class, on teaching people. Really taking a step back from getting out of that analysis paralysis and just taking action and getting a deal. So, we're going to be doing that again here in a couple months. So, what did you like? What was your favorite part about that program, Jim?
Well, I really liked seeing people that I wouldn't say were lost. I just would like for instance, somebody who's actually thinking that they're going to buy and flip an investment property, and they're worried about what were you saying, chat bots, or I've got 20, 30, maybe even $40 million in revenue from a real estate investment over the last few years, and I don't own anything like that. So I think that these guys they come into it thinking that there's certain things that have to be done, and I'm much more of a guy who just wants to roll my sleeves up. And I think Evan says it really well. What is it? Ready, fire, aim. The idea is that there are so many deals that are available, and during a class like we're going to be having. When is this class? This is at the end of the year, or we're going to be starting at the first part of next year.
We're going to be starting at as of now, the first week of January.
Yeah, so there are going to be so many people that are putting their best foot forward. So here it is, we're in the beginning of November. Everybody is thinking about their 2024. And what I want to focus on in the group is harnessing all of these people that are going to be putting wholesale houses out there. Or there's a lot of sellers that are saying, you know what, after Christmas, boom, I'm on the market. Yep. And we're going to focus on digging around, like rooting around and finding the nice juicy one that maybe no one else knows about, and very quickly taking it off the market. And we're going to, I want to create revenue for the club. I want to create revenue for the people that are doing this, and I want it to be long term, and finding good deals that finance properly, everyone gets paid on, that the contractors don't make mistakes on. That's really important to long-term success. And I think if we can give that to the people that come in and pay their hard-earned money to learn how to do this, I'm thinking, and this is the long answer, I'm sorry, but
just look at the camera.
I'm thinking of where the club was nice enough to invite me, and I brought my wife with me. We went to I Survived Real Estate. Bruce Norris put this on. It's a wonderful thing about living in Southern California. You have instant access to some of the greatest investors in the world. And back in 2007, I paid $3,000 for a Bruce Norris flipping workshop. It was 3 days. I still use, this morning, I was using the techniques he taught me back then. And so I can literally say that $3,000 class that I took changed my life and changed the direction of my life. And that's how important, I can't think like that every day, because I'll bog myself down with these kinds of worries. But I do see that this profession, it's honest. You're helping the community. You're doing good things for people, even the people that are living in the houses. Today I did a video walk in the Eureka property, and the place was just a complete mess. And all I'm thinking about is, there was some old people that lived in the house, and they're off to another location. But we're bettering the community, doing this work, and it feels really good. So
absolutely.
My long answer, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Evan, what was your I know there's a lot of things that Jim just said that you're gonna agree with, but what was your favorite part of when we did it last time?
I actually liked some of the one of my favorite parts was when I saw someone that I thought finally they get it. For example, when they realized you would buy that house, that you would make an offer. Because I did not even, it didn't even occur to me that some were thinking of that, about that. I really didn't think about it, that how many were like that. And it was like, yeah, that's a perfect one. And I've talked to some other people since then. They've said literally they would drive by houses that are too bad to find the ones that are just a little bad. Yeah. Because they hear people say, "Oh, you find a house that needs some TLC," and they would try to zone in on that. And you're like, you're missing the. Anyway, it was just
all
crazy.
You have to do is mow the lawn. It's not gonna.
Yeah, so that was something that really got out of that I really liked. The other was when I saw people take action. They made their first call, or they knocked on their first door, or they sat down with a seller for the first time and just did that because they got over the fear. Because a lot of them are paralyzed by fear. That's the whole ready, fire, aim. It's go out there. It's okay to make mistakes. And so just have an out written in your agreement and you're good. But so when I saw that people would finally just get that and start doing deals or started making offers, and that I really, really liked because they got over that fear. And it's like, well, go tell them this, and then they call back and they'd say, oh, this is what he said. I said, okay, great, let's go meet him for coffee, or et cetera. So that was a big thing that I liked. The other part I liked was when we closed a couple of deals and we did a few deals and the person got paid that we were working with. They got paid, we got paid, and that was really great. And in case Beto on that deal, for example, and we split basically a $60,000 wholesale agreement, and there was some costs involved, so it was a little less, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
I used to work a year to make that. And so that's like enough to really get the debt off your back and really kind of open your eyes a little bit of what this can be done. So doing a few deals and seeing that, and then knowing what other people went out and bought and did deals, taking action. Because one of the things out there is that there's a guru here in SoCal that's teaching their people. They spend a lot of money, but what they do is they're like, well, get your corporation all lined up, get your chat GPT all lined up, get everything lined up, spend $20,000 or $30,000 doing that and get it all lined up. And I was literally there because I watched this, them saying, even if it took you 6 months to get your business entity set up before you make your first call, it's worth it. Well,
it is when you're paying them a monthly, massive monthly fee.
and
Tell me, Jim, like when Evan was mentioning something about ready, fire, aim, what does that mean to you?
Well, what I see every day is if I'm making decisions, I'm usually making the wrong decision. So I do understand which decisions were going to be a killer, meaning which ones are going to like literally stop me from working or being able to continue to work, or which ones are just little course corrections, let's call it. So because of the vast amount of experience of losing, I mean, six-figure losses I have from properties that I've used the wrong agent. Out in my in-house agent sold a house out in Palm Springs, and I ended up firing my daughter and hiring somebody else, and we lost way over $100,000.
Is that the one you rehabbed twice, basically?
Pretty much. Yeah. So I mean, I've got that project. I've got another one up in Upland that I just held on to way longer than I should have. It was a big mess of a project. So I can acknowledge those losses. Okay, and that was big time ready, fire, aim. I just went out there and wheeled and dealed and ended up losing. But there's been a lot of introspection on this transaction, which brings me to my day on Monday. So on Monday morning, I woke up at 4:00 in the morning. I was in the car driving to Mammoth by 5. I brought my contractor friend. We bought a condominium in the location in Mammoth, and I paid, and I won't even say what I paid because you'll be mad at me. It's like we got it for nothing, and
I get to stay there this winter, right, for a couple of days.
Well, no, because what I learned is no is what, and that's really what I'm talking about. Is I found out that there is a caravan on every Thursday up in Mammoth.
They're still doing caravan.
They're still doing caravan. You know what? It's a beautiful. It's not the fast paced craziness that we have.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hippies, and I love the hippies up in Mammoth, by the way. But the point is that that's the way they do business. And as long as I know the rules, what I've learned from a lot of failure is now that I know the rules, I want to exploit them. I want to make them work for me as much as possible. So I went up there and we showed up at 10:30, and I told myself I had to be on the road at 3 because I wanted to get back because my business doesn't run me. Okay. So in that time, I met a flooring contractor, I met a drywall contractor, I met a demo contractor, I got the house rekeyed, I bought a bottle of wine for the property manager that's up there and did a little PR work with her. I determined a schedule with the real estate agent that I hired. We've come up with, I think it's Monday, December 3rd is our cutoff date. That's the date we're going to. I scheduled the $300 I paid for the photography. So I'm all in on this because December 7th is a very important date, because if we go any further than that, we're going to miss. It's the season. There's the Mammoth opens on Friday. There's going to be a lot of people coming from Southern California. And by the way, I'm such a dunce. I thought this property was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It's actually the 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath. It's worth $250,000. This condo is worth $750,000. And understanding how to put all of these people together and operate as a general on site, getting them all working in the same direction, and making everybody understand that this property has to be ready to hand to the photographer on December 3rd is really what we put together. Now, are we going to execute that? I think we're gonna, okay? I think we're gonna, but the only reason I know that's important is because I owned a property in Palm Springs for almost a year and change. When you get multiple tax bills from property taxes when you're flipping a property, you've made some big mistakes. And I just won't let that. I'll do everything I can to mitigate that. And that's really that's really the gift that I would like to give a prospective new house flipper. There's nothing better than purchasing a property, fixing it, and anticipating all of the problems that you're going to get and having contingency plans for those, and then getting the property listed early, finding multiple buyers that want it, getting in a situation where the sales transaction works out exactly in your favor, meaning maybe you've given $1,000 in repair requests. And in that repair request, you're not saying, oh, I'm going to fix this perfectly. You're saying, here's $1,000, and for that $1,000, it's going towards fixing every defect in the property. And getting your client to sign that document it feels good. Like you're indemnifying yourself. You're doing everything properly. You're doing everything from a flipper's standpoint. And then you sell the property, you get your money back, and 76 days has come by, and you made $105,000 or whatever the figure is. There's nothing better in the world, and putting that together is what my losses do for me. Is what that's really what it is.
Absolutely. Evan, I feel like you were wanting to jump in there a couple of times.
I'm sorry. I'm a fast talker.
I was. That sounds like a great analysis of what needs to be done to do from almost A to Z, from going up there, especially out of the area, making it all happen, get it set up, and knowing you have also a target date. So, that you laid all that out. I was thinking for me, ready, fire, aim with that is really comes down to, it's okay to make some mistakes, just minimize what they are having out. For example, getting off your butt and going to take action, even without it all spelled out. You can have that fear of, I know that someone died 6 months ago, and I know the family's been emptying the house out, a couple houses over, and I'm literally afraid to just skip trace them or go knock on the door because you know the family and you heard that they're going to sell. Go knock on the door. It's been 6 months and then talk to them. Find out what's going on. But I don't know how much it's going to take to fix the house up. You don't need to, right? You don't need to know how much the house is that it's going to take to fix up at first. You're just starting a conversation. All right. I don't need to know if you're going to ask if you're going to go out in the dating world, ask someone out. I don't need to know everything about them before I ask them out. You're right. You don't.
Exactly. It's just coffee.
It's just coffee. That is exactly right. You're just going to say hi
from Jim.
And and I wish that's the way people would take this real estate investments, because I believe that is the definition of ready, fire, aim.
Just get out.
Okay,
absolutely.
Is that when I was young and single, which has been a long time for me, but I would go out and I would just make it a point to smile at everybody that I was interested in speaking to, and sometimes people would smile back, and I would at least be able to speak with them. And early on, I would find out, oh, this is someone I'm not really interested in, or this is someone I really wanted to get to know, or I think that's really how I met my wife. I mean, that was 38 years ago, but it's not. I didn't say to her on day one, man, you're the woman I want to marry. Now I may have been thinking,
I'm going to introduce you to mom.
Yeah,
right now. Let's go.
Yeah, I may have been thinking like, oh wow, she's a sweetheart. I like this girl. But it took me time to.
It's a dance.
Took me time to figure that out, but so now that we've figured this out, and now that I'm able to. I'm talking about house flipping now, or house investing right now. Now that I've understand this is what it is, that's what enables me to literally get in the car, drive up 440 miles or whatever it is to Mammoth, get out of the car with like a strong jaw, determined. My pin was ready. I mean, I'm kind of joking, but I'm really not.
Well, it's awesome when these things come together. Yeah, when it all comes together, that feeling of that is a great feeling.
Well, I saw so I was speaking to the right real estate agent, which by the way, I don't have anything to do with picking that. We're somebody else in my organization that contacts the agent because I'm sort of like a hard guy, and maybe the agents are like, oh, I don't want to deal with this guy.
Well, it's how we learned that there's even can have let's say an experienced agent, but there's that whole 80-20 rule, there's a lot of truth to that.
No,
just a lot of them just don't
it's 98
know.
too, I hate to say.
Yeah, okay.
It's 98 too.
All right.
But
no offense, people.
Oh, no, it's reality. But in going up there and being like I don't want to make it sound like I'm the master here. That's not it. But what I've seen is how I failed in the past. And so by nipping that in the bud and being very, like an agent wants to know what day the house is going to sell. And the agent, because I'm talking about it, because guess what happens when I hire the photographer? I sign his contract. So I'm not going to sign his listing contract until the house is done because I need him. And so guess what that did for me? The local flooring contractor do you think that guy was busy? We're getting into high season. You've got all these people that are moving up, coming up from Southern California that own places up there. They all want work being done. Well, I got him to drop what he was doing and come to my place, measure it up. Now he gave me $9,400 for, it's a 1,400 square foot, 2-story condo. $9,400 is carpet and hard surfaces, which I didn't think was a gift. I mean, I'm paying, but he stopped what he was doing. He came to my house. He came to the house. He shook my hand. I didn't make any demands on him. I've already introduced him to my manager. It's gonna get done, and it felt good to have the property manager see me operate like this, so they know I'm no nonsense. That I'm gonna get the best of what they have to offer, and that comes with everything we're talking about. We're talking about putting all of that together. All that experience. So.
Well, one of the other things with about the Ready, Fire, Aim, or just looking at it that way, is my attitude. My belief is that you know how a lot of people won't make a decision, and that is a decision by not making a decision. It's because
is a decision.
Yeah, it gets to decide.
You got to say that again because I mean
not making a decision is a decision, and we all have those family members or friends that won't make a decision, and it's usually made for them, and then they have no choice, and they're like, "Well, I didn't have a choice." Well, yeah, because you waited too long. But what I'm
guilty of that.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is that one of the things when I talk about going into your sphere of influence, et cetera, is that those of you that are sitting there that might have that small pool of money waiting to find your one deal, you don't want to end those that might not want to tell their family and friends and acquaintances and alumni that what they do. They want to be that secret agent. The reality is someone's going to pass away. Someone's going to get a divorce because someone's cheating somewhere. Someone just lost their job. Someone has a job transfer. All this stuff's happening, and they're going to go to someone that they know, and it won't be you. And you are literally losing 6 figures a year. All right? Let's just call $100,000 a year. You're losing because you're not doing some basic things. So just by taking action, you start the process to capture some of that. But really by helping all those people that someone lost something, someone lost a father, a friend, or or someone's getting divorced or job transfer, you're solving problems. And the more of those problems you solve and more of your friends, family, et cetera, that you help, the more you're going to make, but also because you're helping other people. And I find that as a very fulfilling lifestyle. And that's just separate than all the things you're going to do by scaling up and driving for dollars and cold calling.
Please, everybody, listen to that, because that over the weekend, my wife and I were at a retreat weekend with our church. I meet this man comes up to me. He says, "I know who you are. I've seen you before." Now this happens to me all the time. So I'm like looking at him like, "How do I know you? How do I know you?" And then my wife walks up and says, "Oh, this is Chris's dad." And then I find out that we helped Chris's wife's mother in a really, really bad time in her life when the brother-in-law was trying to take her home, and we got involved and we put money in her pocket, and it was a long, very hard transaction. And so then the man and myself and my wife are now talking. We're all like lamenting on that past experience. And then his wife comes walking up, and his wife says, "You guys are the real estate agents, right?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I don't do real estate.
Like,
I'm not an agent anymore." Okay, but yes. And she goes, "Oh yeah, because so and so told me that this is what you did for them." And I didn't get a deal out of it or anything like that.
No,
I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
But
might someday.
Right. Yeah, no, I might.
Right.
I might someday, but I feel very good of the fact that I took wonderful care of that woman. And let me tell you right now, it wasn't an easy transaction. They never are. Yeah. It was a mess. It was a complete mess. And we waded through it all. And I think anyone that knows the woman that I was dealing with, and the fact that something positive came out of it, everyone knows that we did a yeoman's work, really kind of trying to make that happen. And that goes a long way towards, on a referral. Like, I would have no problem referring you guys to any one of my friends or family, because I know that you're going to, in the end, make me look good. You're going to be like, "Wow, how do you know those guys?" Yeah. No. Well, I work with them. Well, geez, how do I've known you guys for 15 years or, somewhere close to those numbers. I remember going to job sites with you and you guys being so kind to me on days when I had all this stuff going on, didn't know if I was coming or going. And that goodwill that you showed me at a time when, you just showed me goodwill. Mm-hmm. It means a lot to me. And your club, Rich, is really important to me, because I want to see you guys. I want to see the club flourish. I want to see the people that come to the club. I want to see their lives change. I want to see them, come up with maybe an answer for, going and working. Geez, how many people go and they work at a job, they make $60,000 a year, they can barely pay everything. Everything is so expensive, gas, And
it's a cynical and negative world in so many ways. And so and it can get tiring, you feel like you're getting beaten down. So who you associate with, who you hang with, so the one thing here, so a lot of you guys and you, Jim, and we have breakfast a lot. Yeah. Sorry I couldn't go yesterday, but we have breakfast together frequently. And by those associations and friendships, and it's more, we might talk about the challenges of our careers and what we do, but it's far more uplifting, because you want people that uplift you and teach you and help you, not tear you down and negative, the negative Nellies all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's such a community of this club, especially. I think more so than other clubs. There's so many events here, but at the same time, that like-minded thing, being around like-minded people that want you to succeed. No. I genuinely believe that there is more than enough deals, even in a tight market like this. So I definitely believe there's an abundance of it. So there's enough for everybody in that sense.
Well, and when you finally hit that financial independence goal, you have friends that are in that same and people to go do stuff with, because
they're not all
a lot
working.
of the times, like, if you're the only one in your network, right now, or like if you have the same group of friends that maybe you've had for a long time, and you start down this path and you make it, it's you want to go to Disneyland on a Wednesday, it's going to be tough, when there's when all your friends are still working regular jobs and have 2 weeks of vacation, and they want to take it. They're not going to take it to go to Disneyland with you on a Wednesday.
Right.
Well,
I get
beach on a Tuesday or whatever it is.
I like using the term equally yoked. So, it's a biblical term. I won't get too crazy on you, but what I'm saying is what's inside of me. There's a certain ethos. There's a certain thing that I like to go through, and I'm honest. I don't, I don't cheat people. I'm good. I'm very good with my time. In fact, I give too much time usually to people because I want them to do well. But finding others, which I would see, I see the two of you in that sort of light. And I see most of the mentors here at the club. I see them like that. It's inherent in them. They want to extend themselves. They want to put themselves out. And I don't know who I heard this from, but one of these podcasters said that you essentially are a conglomeration of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right. And I know for me that if I'm spending a lot of time with you guys, that's a good thing for me. But it's something that we're going to keep talking about all the things you have to do, and you don't really have to physically or consciously do them all. I think the term is consciously competent. Okay. So unconsciously competent, meaning I don't have to think about it. It just becomes part of me. So when I show up in Mammoth, all I care about is what days are going to go on the market. And then from there, we work backwards. If that means we have to start everything by Saturday, in order to hit that schedule. Right. And it's not anything I have to think about. I just kind of go through it. And I'm not saying that we're like the smartest guys in the world because we figured this part of it out. It's really not that difficult to figure out, but it becomes that's what I mean by equally yoked. If you can surround yourself around other people that have maybe not the same experience, but
similar goals, similar ideas.
Mm-hmm. The network's your net worth.
Yeah, networks.
You hear all these kind of slogans, and they all mean the same thing. I like the equally yoked. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's a new one. Or for me, anyways.
If you know the Woolwinds, we met them in Ohio last year. They wrote a book. Eric Woolwind, Devin, the son.
My 7-year-old's a millionaire.
They wrote a book, Family Success Triangle.
If he can do it, you can.
That's the name of the book.
Exactly.
Great book. But he talks about Family Success Triangle and about your thoughts, actions, and words. And so, and a lot of us, maybe in business or in real estate, might have that. Have a better idea of that than I do in fitness. Right. So we're all different. Some people really get really good at their job or in going to the gym and eating healthy, etc. And they're in sync. That is all incongruent. What they eat and how they work out and how they treat their body. Right. That they're all incongruent. But then when it comes to finances, they're a mess. They're a wreck. And others have maybe the business side down a little bit better. But we like Snickers bar a little bit more, right? Or fast food, right? So we all kind of pick your pain, or pick what was it you said earlier?
Pick your heart.
Pick your heart. Sorry, you said that. Pick your heart. It's the same thing. And so when all I know is when I'm looking at this, and I sat down and did a what's that called? That circle of like your life of finances and spirituality and physical,
like the Venn diagram kind of.
Yeah, it's like a big circle, and you put out everything where you're at, and you don't want to look like a octagon going down, the wheel going down the road, or something with a flat tire. And Angela and I, my wife and I, both in the same area, we noticed that we seem to be pretty good, except we're weak on the physical fitness part. But even on some of the time, we got so busy these last few years building a business, which is great, but at the same time, talking the talk about some family time and not always making it. And so we realized that was where we were weakest, and I was working with Patrick.
It was the wheel.
It was the wheel.
The wheel.
Yeah. And I realized that opened us up, opened our eyes more. So this year, everything about me, is one of the things is my overriding theme of the year for me is peace of mind. And so trying to structure things that way, we have grandkids coming. We have another grandchild on the way. We just had 2 come in. And then at the same time, what I'm really enjoying and want to work with is, like I said, a next generation of investors and do different deals without all the burden on these shoulders or my team's shoulders.
Exactly.
You know, because I don't do this just me. So, but I'd like to do that and be more surgical on what deals we do, and enjoy life for a little, maybe for a few years. Still do deals, just not,
Really?
not
So
do 30.
What does enjoy life look like?
You know what? An RV. We're looking at
really?
RVs. We're going to buy an RV. I have a Jeep trip planned, 4x4 trip mid-December. I was just telling him about. Want to do that. It's like a week before Christmas. Going to do that. I'm doing riding the first week in December. Outdoor stuff. Yep. I'm just like So there's that. Want my wife to be and the dogs to go out on the RV, get some electric bikes and go camping in the fresh air and get away from where I don't have a network. And so I can no Wi-Fi for a little bit. Now, sorry, sweetheart, if you're listening, you can have Wi-Fi. I just want it off for me. But a little more of that, even if it's just a weekend a month or 3 days in the middle of the week, and then a couple of rides. And at the same time, though, when I'm back, helping people. I got a call today. Someone, you referred me to one of the members was asking about the best type of entity for them to do something that I've literally lived. So But I like that stuff. Hey, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a tax guy. You still go do that. However, this worked for me. But I think the way this is set up, you guys should go do this. And I think you're safe. But here's the ramifications. I love that.
Good. I'm glad they called you.
They did.
So.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's.
Did I answer that on?
I think you did, and I love it because
more grandkids holding.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, we're driving back from. So I'm with my contractor guy, and we're driving back from Mammoth. And you know that area right at Long Pine on Highway 395, you get those beautiful views of Mount Whitney.
Yeah.
All of that. It's just beautiful.
I'm up there all the time.
And he had seen it before, but the weather was perfect. The sun was going down. All of the clouds that were wisping over the mountains that were like red, had a red tint to them. And I could tell he was really into it. And it's called the Whitney Passage. Portal. Is the name Portal? Yeah, Whitney Portal. So I got off 395. I just made a right-hand turn, and I went all the way up, and we drove through.
You went to the portal? Yes. Awesome, man. Isn't that beautiful?
Like, I'm just
stunning.
I'm just telling you.
You drive to like 9,000 feet.
Yeah,
or 8,
he just was
feet.
His mouth was just like on the ground, and I was just really quiet. And all I was thinking to myself is, man, professionally I had one of the best days I've had in years and years and years. And then I get to watch the sun. Well, the sun was already down, but I get to see the clouds go from a crimson red to dark. And and it starts to get dark outside, and you just see this. It was, and
you can drive up to that.
It was like the perfect day, and all I know is that, and maybe I'm trying to make myself too important here, but I see my losses in Palm Springs or my losses on Kilbourne and Upland, you know. More money than I made most of my life in a year, I lost on those two deals. Okay, over $200,000. But I see those lessons in a day.
It was still worth it.
Yep. Oh no, way worth it. Like I'm being overpaid for the feelings I get as I'm doing that, and then I wake up in the morning, the next day, and I got more to do, and that's what I think is so great about the career that we've chosen is that there's always something to do. Yesterday we were
to learn.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yesterday I'm down in Newport Beach. We're on the water. It's where one of my partners lives. Literally watching the waves break in Newport. That's where and we had a little time to kill. So boom, I saw the $36,000 bed. It's like, come on. There's a really great life out there that
afford it.
And I'm not spending money. I'm not just like mindlessly, although gas in Mammoth was expensive, but the point is that to me, it's very rewarding. And it's what I feel like I worked really hard for. Is not like I deserve this. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel on a
Well, you worked hard.
on a level. I've earned it.
You've earned it.
I've earned what I've done, and I remember my father-in-law always telling me, "Oh, I got to pay my dues." Now he would say that to me, and I would always think, "Yeah, but we got to do something." You know,
Right.
I can't just always be sitting here trying to figure out how to pay my dues.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see. It's nice to see that sort of come, and I guess that's the message I have. Like I have a son-in-law. He's 35. He went on one of my driving trips, and it was nice to be able to talk to him. He's in the trucking business right now, and out here in California, the trucking business is very difficult for people. Now he owns his truck. He's kind of roped into this. He can't just make a decision to go somewhere else. And I really was trying to counsel him and just say, hey, as long as you're good to your wife and you're good to your children, like it's these years, that 35 to 45, it's very difficult. It's hard to feel like you're doing the right thing if you're married, if you've got these children that you're responsible for, and then you've got this job to do. But I really am going to tell all of you out there that are in that demographic is that it's worth it because, learning and mastering a trade and mastering like how to buy and sell property or buy and manage property for long-term income and growth. Okay. It's a very rewarding, for me, it's very rewarding. And I like the people that I end up meeting with. And, it's something that you have to make a decision that I'm going to get through those hard nights. So
one of those things that when you said you were driving back and you stopped and took that like detour, I take detours like that all the time. We were just talking about when we're going to Masters of Real Estate.
Because you can.
But no, we were talking and I was like, well, I might want to take, he was asking how we're driving versus him driving. We're going to drive together. But it was like, well, I want to veer off and check this thing out because I'm constantly doing things like that. But what I think is really cool is that you did that is, again, you can incorporate so many things that you, into work, and that is and that is really, really cool. And I really like that idea, and I think again it's just really
and now the contractor that was with me, he's not really a contractor, he's more of a handyman, but he went from I would call him an ancillary player, like somebody that I would count on for minimal things, and then for him to see the way the day went together and the huge payoffs we got professionally and to be able to see everything, I see him as seeing me way differently than when we got in the car at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. versus when I dropped him off. I think we got home at 9 o'clock. I saw him as seeing that he was investing properly his own time. Like I'm not just a guy who makes a bunch of promises and tries to, I only come through, I realize I was an hour late to our meeting to here today, but the point is that I'm not just blowing hard about, this, that, and the other thing, and then maybe some of it comes together. He saw an action plan be put in place. He saw other professionals, trying to make that happen. And then we got this great payoff. And I could see him in his own mind saying to himself, oh, this is a good life. I want to be part of this. And you get a lot out of people when they feel like there's I didn't say you get a lot out of people like you're taking advantage of them. When you bring them to something beautiful, they're very happy and they're willing to give way more than I'm willing to ask for.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's beautiful.
And I've seen that change, and some of my guys that over the years started off as Evan's guys, and that when I came in. And he hadn't been working with them, super long, but, I came in and kind of was like a bull in a china shop, kind of bulldog kind of thing, of trying to correct some things that I saw. And we definitely butted heads, over a good year or two, probably longer.
Well, you got yin and you got yang. Okay. And it's two different things.
Well, where were you going with that?
And now, years later, there was other people that have fallen off on the wayside and of that, they had kind of like come to not an agreement, but like, it was like them against me kind of thing. And I think they saw it that way, but, where I never really felt, I guess they got the job done. They worked hard. You know, we kind of had this understanding of like, but I didn't see a whole lot of respect there beyond of like, you know, hey, I'm the one controlling the check, so do your job, you know, kind of thing. But now, years later, now that they more work directly for me, and now I've seen that where I've gone versus those other people they were listening to in the past. They've become, you could see the change. You could see the change in it, and in both of us too. Like I've changed, they've changed.
It's hard not to be smart.
And one of them now owns long-term rentals.
Yeah,
out of state, nearby, but out of state.
And he's always asking me stuff now about investing and how the market's going. And,
So
you know, and I see them, you know, really, he understands a lot more now. Like with the, you know, I heard him talking to one of his subs, you know, about we were getting quotes for different things. I think it was cement work, and the quote came back high. And you know, and I didn't even have to say it this time. He said it, you know, where he was like, "Yeah, dude, if they can't make money at the end of this day, like we don't work for them, like." Because it's a whole, it's not about just us getting paid. It's like they have to, like, if there's no money being made on their side of things, you know, then there's no project, you know, and to see them get that and like fighting for me to get the best deal to make this thing happen was really refreshing versus, you know, years ago where I was like fighting tooth and nail for every dollar.
Do you think that's a maturity do you think that's a maturity that somehow you've like, cause I can big time relate when my entire life was had to do with a payroll report. And, you know, when I say payroll, I mean, these are contractual items that I have to pay on a certain date. And it was hard not to, like, I really to take it personally that here I'm paying this guy every week. I'm like, I have a checkbook that just seems, I write checks every day, sometimes $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 at a day going out of the account. And no one seemed to like recognize that as like, oh wow, we got to help this guy out. And I don't mean help me across the street. I mean, sometimes it was just to go on was difficult, and a lot of animosity. And I want to say I've matured and I see the business differently, but that was a really hard thing to kind of get over. Listen, anyone that's been doing this a long time, I think has the same sort of thing that they've gone through. But I feel kind of weird saying, you know, I guess I've just matured, but I guess that's really,
sometimes that's what it is. It's and it doesn't mean just an emotional maturity. It could be a business maturity too.
Yeah,
you just learn more.
Well, there's a lot of like, you know, I'm a very you know, get stuff done type of person, like with as little BS as possible. So, you know, when I have to remember that I haven't been on the job swinging the hammer, you know, for you know, 2 months, and my guys have, you know, and a lot of them, you know, and they've done stuff that I don't necessarily see, you know, so it's being conscious and mindful of that when you walk into a job and trying to look for things that they did do before you immediately jump to the
all
thing
the
that
problems
didn't get done or got wrong. You know, you don't just walk in there and be like, dude, I told you to paint that. What the hell?
Yeah.
You know, where they painted the other 17 things already, you know, and that's, and I'm trying to get us to the finish line as quickly as possible. And, you know,
and they're going, but I just painted this railing and I just did this thing and I did by hand with a toothbrush and, you know, and you're like, thank you. But
and
not
learning, you know, and
like that wasn't even on the scope.
It always, exactly. And of course it depends on, it depends on the crew. It depends on the personality. You know, you get a lot of, you know, you have those guys that are, you know, no BS either. And they are getting stuff done. So when they, you know, when something doesn't get done, you're a little bit more, you know, are forgiving, you know, versus
time,
the guy who,
money, material, people.
It's all a dance, and it's a which crew, and you know which one.
Some crews you can be more like straightforward with. Others you got to be they're a little more sensitive.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was out in went to Austin, Texas. I saw my daughter and her husband. They have a farm. They operate in Elgin, Texas. It's called Headlong Farms. And so they asked me to come out, and he had a few projects he was doing. And of course, I'm sort of a poor soul. I don't realize that my son-in-law is calling me, I should embrace that and go and work with him hand in hand. Like that's really that's the spirit I should have given him. But unfortunately, I go on Craigslist. I'm looking for drywallers. I'm looking for guys to help us work out. Well, I actually found multiple guys, but they want the one dude said, "Yeah, I'll do it. My fee is $800 a day," and
Does that come with 3 guys or?
No, that was him. That was him for $800 a day. And I was like, well, I just did the math quickly in my head. I was like, 220 work days in a year. That's $176,000. And he was quiet on the other end of the phone. It was like I called him on it essentially, and he didn't really have a lot to say about it. And I was like, well, if that's your figure, like thinking he would, give me a discount or offer me something like time and material or, whatever the heck. He never did. Well, I ended up doing drywall. And it was actually, it was good for me to do the drywall work because, first of all, that was my construction life was drywall. It was kind of fun to do it. It was neat for my son-in-law to see me working and, and rolling my sleeves up and getting dirty and working. So a lot of good comes from it. But I don't understand. I spent too many days doing drywall for a wage, and I don't understand the thinking behind just saying no. It's $800 a day, and I guess he has all the work he needs.
I was going to say market specific too, because some areas like Texas that overall most of it booming as far as jobs, et cetera, and other areas are not. So we learned that
or in the mountains, you got guys that their whole game is just they only work for the rich people that come up from LA that own second homes in Arrowhead.
Because the retail jobs
they don't touch the locals because the locals are never going to pay what the LA.
Well, it goes back to the retail job. Oh, I'll just do that one that one remodel for the out of area people. And since they're only going to do one job now, and maybe in 10 years they'll do another job, and the price is through the roof, sure. But it's like, we'll keep you busy.
Yeah.
We've spoiled, even one of the guys he's talking about, we spoiled our contractors. And even every once in a while when they go somewhere else and they're working for a while, they're like, can we come back and work with you? Because you pay on time. Yeah. You pay this. I've been waiting 45 days to get paid $38,000 and it's still not coming, and they eventually get it. Oh, and
we're not, it's not a, he just told me today he's got a, he's like, they'll bid a $60,000 project and it'll turn into a $200,000 project, but then they'll expect them to carry the brunt of the overages. And it's like, and we don't do that. We'll pay, extras or change orders or whatever, throughout the job.
And so that's what I do now with the contractors is if the scope of work is missing what I think is there, I just simply say, okay, time and material is going to be at $22 an hour. And I do that on everyone I speak to. Yeah. And even if we don't we usually make an agreement, but the point is I can see them in their head going, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I see it. I understand. Like I hired that painter I was talking about $6,500 and $7,500 for inside and outside, and then I said, hey, I've got 6 other properties if you want to bid them, and I could tell he saw me differently as soon as I started talking like that. Well, now on one of the properties he's doing demo work, he's doing cleanup work, he's going to install lighting, he's going to he's got a heating and air conditioning guy. All of a sudden the scope increases, but just because we were able to talk efficiently, and we're heading off the argument and the problems up front, and I think that's just comes with the business maturity like we were talking about before.
And it's I was in Ohio last year, and my tenants called me, and the sewer was all backing up in their toilet and their bathtub, and I was working with the property manager at the time that, wasn't the get stuff done type of person. And so he wasn't managing this property. It was just, we were dealing with something else and we talked, and my tenants called me. Sorry, I'm kind of convoluting this story. This tenants called me and the sewer was backing up into the thing. Within 4 hours from being on the other side of the country, I had people digging out the sewer and replacing the entire sewer line in the house. And I remember him being like, how did you do that? Like, how did you have somebody there that fast, replacing it that quickly. And I was like, because I do what I say I do, I'm going to do, and I pay immediately. Like nobody I work with has to chase me for money.
Just like I expect you to pay me my rent when you're,
Exactly.
if I'm going to demand that of you, you're going to get that of me.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's like where, when I tell you I'm going to do something, I 9.9 times out of 10, I do it.
That's beautiful,
and
man.
having that, and I have, people that, and it's the same thing. So when I call,
network.
it goes back to your network of contractors and everything too, because if, and it still works both ways. If they call me and need something, or they need me to put eyes on something, I'll go do it for them, so, it's all about those relationships. So.
I think that's probably something I wish we had here. I don't want, I'm not saying this because I want 14 phone calls from people saying, hey, come over and take a look at it. But I would tell people that are actually doing flips. Like I used to do this, and I've done this with you guys when we first started knowing one another. You guys were like, hey, let's meet. And I'd say, no problem. I've got to do job walks on 3 locations. Why don't you guys come and we'll do a job walk together? And I can tell you right now, back in those days, I remember like guys, I saw them one time and I never saw them again. They would show up. I would meet them at a coffee shop. I wouldn't even go into the coffee shop. I'd say, hey, I'm in the red truck. Come on out. And they'd come out to the truck. I would get it. We would drive to a job site. And I would, on the way over, I'd be like saying, listen, we're going to meet this contractor, and this son of a gun just did this, this, and this, and I'm upset, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And I would look at him and go, just stand behind me and smile, and, you don't have to say anything, just watch this go down. And I remember one time at that nice house in Corona that I was building, we were arguing with somebody, and it got pretty heated. And he gets in the car, and I was like, well, what'd you think of that? And he goes, wow. He couldn't believe, he couldn't believe that this was like a day in the life. And I think that's, I would tell all of the up and coming investors that are out there trying to figure out like, hey, how do I fit into this world? How do I manifest all of this activity into green dollars in my pocket? Is maybe you focus on going out maybe once or twice or 3 times a month with an area investor. And so maybe you say to them, hey, I'd like to do a job walk with you. I'd like to see what you care about. Because a big part of, like you said it a minute ago about going out of the job site and seeing people, like I got this from my kid, the 3rd grade teacher used to call them catch-ems. Catch them being good. So the kids would get a little award if they were caught doing something good. And it's not a bad idea. I have some at home. I found a nice bottle of red wine. I like red wine. I can speak coherently about red wine to people. And so I bring these bottles with me. Yeah. And when I'm talking to somebody and I'm trying to maybe earn favor with them, or I'm trying to get them to see things from my point of view, and then I'm successful at that, there's something really refreshing. And it's sort of like you see them sort of like let down, like when you come back when I ask, are you a red or a white? And I'm
a Chipotle person. Just so you know.
I know you are. I know you are. Are you a red or a white? And it's funny, whenever I say that, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And she goes, oh, you don't have to do that. I said, no, it's not that I don't have to do that. I've got red or white in my car right now. Which one would you like? Oh, I love red wine. And then I come back and I say, this is from Vina, this is from New Clairvaux Winery, and I tell them a story about it, and I don't know, the bottle was maybe
gestures go way. I don't mean,
oh yeah,
they go a long way, and that's the thing, because you care enough to you brought something for someone.
Well, there's that old line: people will forget what you did, people will forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
And if you made someone feel appreciated,
yep.
By
that goes
just
a long way.
$5 chuck or $20 bottle of wine, whatever it was, it didn't matter. It was that you showed appreciation. Right. It could have been a candy bar.
Right.
You know what? And that felt good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I had to work an overnight shift years ago, other life, working an overnight shift for a job. Before I was a manager, I was just the printer, one of the guys on the machine. And I remember the owner, the guy I was telling you about, we had this massive job, and it was all night work. We literally were working like 36 hours straight. And I remember about midnight or 1 a.m., I forget, came in with like a Coke and a giant Snickers for several of us. The owner was up, drove over. He likes to sleep. And I knew how important it was. So he did, and I had worked for maybe a year, and I was a young kid. And I remember to this day, I remember that was the right thing, because I was like, he got out of his own bed, drove across, because the account, it was like, oh, it was worth it to me. The account, his big account was worth it to him. And he also wanted, by taking care of his employees, he understood it was like the metaphor is take care of the cow. Yeah, if you have a farmer and you take care of the cow, it takes care of you. You beat it immediately. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, he had a cow painting sketch up on the hallway, and all the things that people had done. What did you do for the cow this week? Well, I swept the floor. I picked this up. I did, because that was community, and it was really cool. That. I learned a lot then.
I had to get a cow.
It said a lot, and so, but that little thing. 30 years later, I still remember that, and that was one of the reasons why I say again, I love that boss so much.
Well, my old broker used to give us paydays, payday candy bars with our checks. And the first few that I got, I was always like, what the heck? Because she would put stupid like kid stickers that are like, wow, or, you know, like, over the moon, exactly. And I always thought it was sort of stupid.
Until it didn't.
Well, no, until I started to realize that it's a thankless job. I'm saying the real estate industry, it's difficult, it's hard, it's the same kind of really cruddy sort of circumstances that you're in, and your people are always, you're either trying to prove yourself or you're unappreciated. It's very...
They either love you or hate you.
Yeah, very seldom is there an equilibrium there. And what Susan really showed me in this business is to be able to sort of smile and not take yourself so seriously. And she did it with a payday bar and those stupid stickers on the checks. And I had a little drawer in the front of my thing, and I'd pull it out. Now, I pulled the checks out and deposited them, but I had the envelopes there because envelopes meant something to me.
Yeah, that made you feel
good. Yeah, exactly. And it was nice. And every once in a while, when a new person had come in, I could take out and I could put them on the desk, and I'd say each one of these were a check that I got from them. These are good people.
Cool.
And I caring for the cow, I guess you could say. Now, Susan would be mad if I just called her a cow on radio, but
it's just don't kill the goose, lay the
there you go.
It was funny going back to that other contractor too that I was talking about that's been around for years, and how he making people feel good, and he we use Slack a lot. So the other day after we met, he's going through some personal stuff, and Caitlin was talking to him a little bit, and he put a message in Slack that was like, Caitlin, I just want to let you know that, you're awesome, and I really appreciate everything you do. And I was like, and she read that to me. I was like, he said that? And I was like, it wasn't even to me. And I was like, and she felt, obviously great to hear that from him. And I was like, I think that's the nicest thing I've ever heard him say to anybody.
But that's a huge buy-in. That's somebody you can really count on. He's on your team, man.
Exactly. Like it was a really good feeling, even though it wasn't even directed at me. So on that note, we do need to start wrapping it up here. So Jim, Evan, it's been awesome to have you guys on here. I've been trying to get you on here for a while. I know we're all super busy, so I really appreciate the time here.
Sure.
If people want to get a hold of you, and I'll give the link for the class we're doing in a little bit, but if people wanted to get a hold of you separately, Jim, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I respond best to texts sent to 951-880-8646. And those texts will be answered when they can, and I welcome anyone who's interested to contact me, and we'll go from there.
Right on. Evan?
Similar, actually, same is just my phone or text 909-556-5955. And that's usually I'll get right back to you.
Excellent.
And then thank you for that. Also, you can reach us at sircashdeals.com. Basically you can go ahead and join our buyers list. And it
And if you want to partner with us
Thank
or
you.
anything like that, you go to sircashdeals.com. That's Evan and I's company. Like you said, you could get on our buyers list. You can look at past stuff we've done. If you like what we've done and you want to, partner with us on money or anything like that, always open. And again, thank you guys. I appreciate you being on the show. This has been the Fire Chat podcast. Again, I'm your host, Rich Rice, and we are going to be doing, if you liked everything you heard from Jim and Evan and myself today, we're going to be doing a boot camp to basically accelerate you to your next deal starting on January 4th. You can check out more information on that at firefast.iereic.org. Again, that's firefast.iereic.org. And we will see you again next week. Thanks for joining us on Fire Chat, everybody. Thank you.